I'm just thinking out loud here, but if your name is Zoltan and you don't go into fortune telling as a career, I feel like you missed an opportunity. So there's a new idea floating around showing how gold could double in price and double pretty quickly. Now don't worry, this isn't me making something up. It actually comes from a contributor for Credit Suisse. So you need to know that there is a built-in bias, and the concept requires a pretty big assumption. But I'm going to run through this idea anyway because I think it's interesting. Now the contributor's name is Zoltan Pozsar. I was familiar with his name because how many Zoltans do you know? But also because he's been talking about the rising importance of commodities in international trade, something he calls Bretton Woods III. Now, some of this information, it can be easily found. Some of it shows up as leaked documents, and some of it requires subscription. So I'm just going to give an overview here. And that does mean that my citations are a little bit loose. The actual information is a little bit loose, but the idea itself is pretty straightforward. Just know that these are ideas and predictions from somebody who has no real influence over actual policy, does not run Russia. He's simply reading what he sees as the writing on the wall. So let's start with the SPR. That's the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for the United States. Well, it is being depleted. And the question that Zoltan kicks off with is, what does the U.S. plan to do next? Will they refill the reserve? Will they release more? Will they do a little bit of both? It all depends on prevailing price. And the plan would be to refill if prices drop below $72 per barrel, something that has not happened yet. And the reserves are being depleted and will soon hit a 4-decade low. Tapping into the reserve is being done, of course, to help manage inflation, among other things. And if you remember, OPEC Plus recently set a price target of about $100 a barrel. That's considerably higher than the $67 to $72 that the U.S. is targeting to start refilling the reserve. So that's the opening plot. It's hard to get a hold of cheap oil right now, so we're using reserves faster than we're replenishing it. So here's where gold fits in. Hypothetically, of course, because again, Zoltan, he's just not running Russian trade policy. But currently, Russian crude can be imported by a country like India. I'm not just picking them out of the blue. They're, of course, one of the big buyers of Russian oil. And until recently, they were able to buy it for about $30 a barrel, then do whatever they do to turn it into diesel and export that to a country like the United States for $140 a barrel. And that allows India to buy cheap oil and then make a profit exporting that diesel. But the days of the cheap oil are over, and Russia's been selling crude at around $60 a barrel. That just happens to be the current sanction cap that just went into place. And Russia does not want its oil going to the U.S. regardless. So this has spurred the idea that Russia would only take payments for its oil in gold, not in rupees, not in dollars. So Zoltan goes on to lay out the exchange rate, pointing out that a gram of gold equals about a barrel of oil right now. So pegging oil at a gram of gold rather than the current $60 USD sets a base, and here's where a little bit of that jump comes into play. If that peg was in place, Russia could offer more oil simply by releasing more oil for the same price. Basically, a buy one, get one discount. And the reason that Russia might do this would be to continue to easily move oil while allowing India to stay in the picture. Basically, importing that discount oil and exporting it for a profit. And that increase in oil per gram would effectively double the value of gold, taking the spot price from $1,800 to $3,600. And if that seems like a bad deal for Russia, well, remember, they have a significant gold position, both in terms of reserves and ongoing production. Now, if this sounds like just another wild scenario of how gold could very quickly double, well, I'm with you. But if you look into Zoltan Pozsar a little bit further, you'll see his thoughts on what he calls Bretton Woods III, something I mentioned at the outset of this thing. The idea there is basing trade on actual commodities and cutting out the dollar. And that idea, to me, at least seems feasible. So even if we don't see oil directly pegged to gold, we could see the value of gold rising as it's used to settle international trade, particularly as trade routes and international cooperation gets more complicated and commodities like oil get more expensive. So this is Zoltan's idea, not mine. I will drop a link to the article on deepdive.ca. Let him keep his thunder. Take a look if you want to see more, but let us know in the comments what you think about gold being used for international trade and what you think that would do to the price. And then while you're in the comments, be sure to hit the like button if you found any of this interesting. Be sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on if you'd like to see more on the topic. And if you're still here, thanks again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.